UFC 295 just recently wrapped up, and I'm going to recap the entire card. So make sure you guys smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. I'm going to start with the first fight of the night, then work my way up to the main event. Let's start it off. It was Jamall Emmers versus Denis Buzukja to get the night started. And it was quick because Buzukja got dropped by a straight right in under a minute. 49 seconds, Emmers TKO'd him. It was a pretty straightforward fight. Emmers was looking pretty solid from the outside. He was faster than Buzukja. He showed some power and explosiveness that we don't normally see. I don't think of Emmers as a knockout artist. That's not how it flows. I believe it was his first UFC knockout. Chinned Buzukja under a minute, quick stoppage, got the night started off with a win on my pick side, but an L for New York's own and Denis Buzukja, who's training out of the Longo Weidman gym. Jamall Emmers got some hands on him. He's got speed. We know he's good from the outside. We knew he was longer, but actually getting a knockout at 34, he doesn't seem to have lost a step. Jamall Emmers has always been pretty good. Like, he had a split decision loss to Giga Chikadze that I think we all forget about. So I was impressed with how easily he handled Buzukja, even though he was a big favorite and definitely supposed to win. Next fight on the card. This one was awesome. Joshua Van, Kevin Borjas. The first round was all Kevin Borjas. He looked tremendous. He hurt Joshua Van, and it seemed like the fight was flowing his way. But round two, Van starts taking over. Borjas is slowing down because for the majority of really the whole fight, Borjas is on that bicycle. And what is Joshua Van working so well? Body strikes. He's so fluid with his punch combinations. I think at 22 years old, we can say this about Joshua Van. Long UFC future ahead, and I see him working his way up to the rankings. I'm not going to go as far. I don't know about being the world champ, but nonetheless, I think he's going to be a successful fighter in a long UFC run, and I see him on the roster for an extremely long time because the skill set looks so smooth right now at only 22. The gas tank is 100% there. He doesn't let off of it, and he beat Kevin Borjas pretty clean. Was able to mix in takedowns. Borjas wasn't expecting. Looked damn explosive on him too. The body punches, the pressure, the gas tank, the recovery ability. Joshua Van's really good. Now, Borjas is solid as well at only 25, nearly 26. I think he's got a good UFC future ahead of him. But nonetheless, this was all Joshua Van after the first round. Borjas looked awesome early. Later in the fight, he's getting a bit reckless. He gassed out, and he was getting ripped apart. Joshua Van's body shots are top tier. He's one of the best body punchers. I believe he broke the body punch record. I think it's 53 that he broke. This is the new record. It might have been 49 before. Don't quote me exactly. But Joshua Van's body punching is A tier. And I think he's got a bright future at just 22. Lots of big fights heading in the, coming years. 2024 is going to be a fun year for this young prospect. But definitely let him marinate. They don't got to rush him up the ranks. Good 9-1 prospect. Next fight on the card, John Castañeda, Kang. When Kang is on the outside striking, he was doing pretty well. I personally scored the first round for Kang, and even Castañeda in the post-fight interview said that he thought he had lost the first round. He turned it up in the second and third. He landed cleaner and more powerful strikes. He made it more of a dirty fight, and he mixed in the wrestling. My keys to victory for Castañeda was make it dirty, get this fight to the ground at some point, clinch up with Kang. Don't just stand on the outside and kickbox, because that is where Kang, for the most part, shines. But when Castañeda started finding his punching range, he definitely took over. 100% deserved the win here. He's a scrappy guy with a good gas tank, good boxing skill, forward pressure, and he shines when fights are dirty. Now, I never thought Kang was all that top tier, even though he's got an impressive 4-1 in his last 5 coming into this fight, and he was on a 2-fight win streak. I thought Castañeda's game would hold up well, and it definitely did. Clean win for Castañeda. He's a decent bantamweight. He's a guy that has a good gas tank, who's going to keep closing the gap and throwing shots throughout the whole night. Good win for Castañeda. I thought he looked pretty solid beating Kang, as he should have. Next fight on the card, Jared Gordon versus Mark Madsen. Let me say something about this fight. On the weigh-in recap show, I think I dropped the gem of all props. I said, you know, for some reason, I have this weird feeling Gordon might knock him out. The official pick was Gordon. I thought he probably would end up winning the decision, but something was saying, hey, post weigh-in, that's sprinkle. And at the big plus money, I hope some of you guys cash that knockout prop because he slept Madsen in the first round. A Madsen who was more than willing to strike with them and was exchanging shots inside of the clinch, where, you know, his ultimate demise came. Gordon ripped him up in the clinch, dropped him with the shot over the top, and fight is pretty much done. Madsen got chinned. His chin didn't hold up. He couldn't get this fight to the ground. Gordon, the better fighter. I knew Madsen was a damn good wrestler, but I didn't think that it would translate to a guy with the level of Gordon, who, let's be honest, and as quick as his fight with Bobby Green went, was having striking success very early. Probably should have beat Paddy Pimblett on the scorecards, got robbed in a lot of people's opinions, and now knocks Mark Madsen out in the first round, calls for a contender after. I definitely think there's an interesting fight for him moving forward. I think it's somebody that actually fought on this card, and when we get to that fighter's fight, I'm going to discuss what I think of who it should be potentially next for him. We'll get to it first, though. We got to give it a little time. Nonetheless, it was a clean W for Jared Gordon. He knocked out Mark Madsen, not known for his punching power as Gordon, but he delivered in New York. Home state fight, he brought the fire. I loved the knockout for him, and I think he looked damn good. Badass. Badass performance. It was a sick knockout. Madsen came out guns blazing, fast, ripping with knees, trying to make it a dirty fight, strong in the clinch. Gordon didn't have it. He's scrappier, he's got better boxing, and he chinned Mark Madsen here. You got to think if you're Madsen, you're like, damn, why didn't I just try to wrestle and get this to the ground from the start? Probably what he needed to do, but he tried to strike, and he got laid out for it. Next fight, it's Nazim Sadykhov and Vyacheslav Borshchev. So the first round, Vyacheslav Borshchev wins, and he's looking really good. Like, I was super impressed by how he was striking. He was touching up Sadykhov. Second round, he looks like he's in a flow state, releasing multi-shot combinations beautifully, looks calm, cool, and collected. Then he gets caught with a wide shot that buckled him a bit, and then a high kick for Nazim Sadykhov. Sadykhov is then throwing a bit of ground and pound, but I think made the ultimate mistake in this fight, which was choosing to engage in grappling when you had an opponent seriously hurt. You saw when they stood back up to the feet, after Slava had a lot of time to recover on the ground, he was still on rubbery legs and seemed like he was going to get knocked out. If Sadykhov would have just said, hey, get back up, I actually think he would have slept Slava Claus here. But Sadykhov, he tried to grapple with him. Borshchev ended up getting back up to his feet and survives the round. Now, personally on my card, even due to the big knockdown, even due to the big strikes, I thought it was a 10-9 round. Because, let's be honest, Borshchev was definitely winning up until that big shot, and he was winning cleanly. But nonetheless, official judges, 2 out of 3, scored a 10-8. We go into the third round. Competitive third round that slightly favors Borshchev. I did score it for him in round number 3. So I thought it could have been a 29-28 Borshchev decision, but it was damn competitive at the end. Sadykhov was getting outstruck late and definitely lost the third round using damage, right? Even though the takedowns landed, there wasn't damage done. And Borshchev got back up to his feet at the very end of the fight, which also, I think, put a staple on his win. Granted, it was a draw because 2 of the 3 judges decided 10-8. I see why they decided 10-8. It was serious damage. It was emphatic it was an emphatic knockdown. It was a 6 strike. It did a lot of blood work damage. You know what I'm saying? The elbow on top. He ripped them up. Blood work damage. I don't even know what I'm saying. But nonetheless, I think that the side of Borshchev has improved, but the takedown defense after the 8-minute mark is still mad suspect. Borshchev in the first round, his takedown defense was awesome, but after he got rocked a bit, the takedown defense went back to pure kickboxing ways because Sadykhov was getting him down, but his get-ups are what I see improvement on. This was such a good fight that you wouldn't be crazy to go back and just immediately rebook it. I just don't know the direction the UFC wants to go with Sadykhov. If their goal is to continue to build him, maybe they don't give him Borshchev in a rematch because he's definitely at risk of losing a rematch to Vyacheslav Borshchev. But if they're in the mentality of let's find out who actually is better between these two, I feel like you have to do it again. Draw? Both guys seem happy with the draw. I honestly can't shit on them on either side. I think we run it again. I'd want to see a rematch. Let's run it back. Good fight too. One of those scraps. I think we do it a second time. Let's see what Sadykhov does. Maybe he looks to grapple from the early start more so. But nonetheless, takedown defense early for Slava Claus looked night and day better. We have to be honest here. His wrestling defense is getting there. Draw, though. I want to see a rematch. I want to see a rematch. Let's run it back. My pick, run it back, please. Next fight on the card, it was Mateusz Rębecki versus Roosevelt Roberts. This was another like gem of the weigh-in recap show calls because I said I think that sub prop is live here. And Rębecki ended up strangling him. Now, excuse me, armbarring him, not strangling him. I feel like Rębecki's grappling strength is very legit, but let's be honest. Roosevelt took this fight on a few days' notice. He was not in fight shape, and this is what Rębecki should do to a Roosevelt Roberts. Realistically, even like a full camp Roberts, I think Rębecki probably finishes on the ground. He should have fought Nurilo Aliyev tonight, but Aliyev got injured. If we can somehow get the timelines to work and set that up, I am so interested in that. But Rębecki with this win here is now 3-0 in the UFC. Is it crazy that I'm thinking I kind of want to see him fight Jared Gordon? Now, that's no respect to Gordon, though, if they throw him Rębecki. But I am interested in the stylistic clash. But then it's like, yo, they're screwing Gordon out of somebody in the rankings. But Rębecki said, I want a ranked contender. I don't think Rębecki gets a ranked contender. Gordon's more likely to get one. I could see them crossing paths. I could see them going a rebooking with Nurilo Aliyev or in a total different direction that I can't even think of at the moment. For Roosevelt Roberts, it's good that he's back on the UFC roster, though. Taking these fights with absolute shit circumstances where you're almost guaranteed to lose suck, but you're back on the roster. You're back in the UFC. You're back making a little more, more in that regional scene. And I'm glad he didn't retire. I want to see more out of Roosevelt Roberts. It sucks that he went out there and got beat like this, but he took it on such short notice. He can come back better. It's just Rębecki's also a really hard fight on a full camp, too. So, good win for Rębecki. He ran through Roosevelt. He was a minus 700 favorite, and it was a few days' notice. He was supposed to fight Nurilo Aliyev, who's like a doppelganger of Khabib. Next fight, ladies went after it. Lupita Godinez versus Tabatha Ricci. I don't know how Brian Miner scored it 30-27 Ricci, because I thought it was 30-27 Lupita Godinez. Like, you could maybe say the first round late knockdown could have got it for Ricci, but like the second and third were definitely Lupi's. I gave her all three. I thought she was winning the whole fight. And I like Tabatha Ricci a lot. I picked Tabatha Ricci. I thought she was a live underdog. I was damn wrong. Lupita Godinez was outstriking Tabatha Ricci. It's evident that she's working with Alexa Grasso in the way that she's boxing, the way she's even holding her hands. The wrestling defense is always going to be there. I mean, damn. Two of her sisters are top-tier wrestlers trying to get to the Olympics. Her wrestling defense is legit. And Tabatha Ricci, jiu-jitsu is really good. She does have good athleticism, good strength. Like, there's a lot of potential there. But you could see Lupita Godinez with the veteran savviness. At this point, those losses for Lupi have become the best things that have ever happened to her. I still think Ricci has a bright future in MMA, and she'll be back for more fights. But right now, it's Lupita Godinez getting it done. Lupita's time. Lupi time. I've always felt like she's a good prospect. I think she really proved it here that she's a contender on the come-up. With Lupita Godinez, she's in one of those interesting predicaments where it's like, I almost feel as though if you don't give her someone in the rankings, it's disrespect. Let's see here. I'm going to bring up the rankings and look. Let's check them out. What is a fight on the rankings for her? Women's fly? This is women's fly, right? No, women's straw, excuse me. All right. Right now, Lupi is 13. Okay, so she is ranked. What am I saying? Ricci was ranked 10. Wow. I forget that this was like a big jump up the ranks. Amanda Hebos is fighting Luana Pinheiro this coming Saturday. I like the winner of that fight for Lupi. That's what I'm picking. The winner of that fight for Lupita Godinez is interesting. Unless they want to give her a striker, try to give her a clearer path to the top. Marina Rodriguez. Marina Rodriguez fight could be interesting as well because Rodriguez had, I don't want to shit on Karate Hottie, but they threw her a fucking softball with a past her prime Karate Hottie rematch when she dominated the first fight for the most part. I think that Lupita Godinez is a good prospect. And she's 30 right now, so the prime is officially hit. Ricci was a bit overranked and overrated. It's just time to pump the brakes on her a bit, but she'll be back too. I like the Pinheiro Hebos winner, or I like potentially Marina Rodriguez, and we give Lupi a test towards the real upper echelon of the weight class now. Good work for Lupi. Very good work. Next fight on the card. Actually, I want to say one last thing. With Tabatha Ricci, am I crazy for thinking maybe she fights Angela Hill next? I don't know. I could see it. I definitely could. Next fight was our featured prelim of the night. It's Steve Erceg versus Alessandro Costa. It was a really good fight while it lasted. Steve Erceg had early success hurting Costa, and then Costa had success hurting Erceg, throwing big shots. But ultimately, Steve Erceg is calculated, man. He's a very patient fighter, and he can, methodically pick his opponents apart. Touch him up with jabs, rip leg kicks, clinch up when needed. He was able to beat Costa in like a pretty back and forth fight. And like Costa's winging shots. And as he's ripping these punches, I'm like, damn, he might be one of the most heavy-handed flyweights. He reminds me of like John Lineker mixed with his own explosiveness. But Erceg was patient and technical, and that's what got him the win. And late in the fight, yes, it was clinch control against the cage, and Costa didn't like it. But it got Erceg the win that he needed. It's not like he didn't take some bombs in this fight. He got touched a bit. He felt some power shots by Alessandro Costa, and I think he was really tested here, and we know Erceg has some recovery ability, and he definitely has a chin on him, and he's got a crazy will to win. Costa, though, is so legit. I think he's got a bright future at only 27. With a loss here, I still think he was great. Erceg is just right now superior, and I think he's more ready for these ranked fighters. I mean, he made his debut against a ranked guy. He fought David Dvorak on very short notice and went in and won the fight. Now, David Dvorak, Erceg is ranked 14 with a win here over an unranked fighter. Where do they run him up? You know what? I think you just rebook the Erceg-Snell fight if possible. I see that making a lot of sense. Erceg-Snell. I'd like them to rebook that if it can happen. I'd also say Alex Perez, but like he never can actually make it to fights. And I don't think you give Erceg Muhammad Mokaev. I think you keep the prospects away from each other. For now, at least. I like the idea of the Schnell rebooking or even Alex Perez, but like I'm worried Perez won't get to the fight. For Costa, I mean, you could give him David Dvorak in all honesty. I would watch that. I don't know. They might give him someone out the rankings. But I think Dvorak and him would be interesting. He's still upper echelon. I think he's going to crack into the top 15. But like, yo, if you look at flyweight right now, this is the best flyweight division ever. We got savages throughout the whole top 15. The flyweight division's great. I'm so happy the UFC went against that delusion of cutting it out, which they thought about years ago, because now, one of my favorite weight classes. Steve Erceg, scary prospect. Costa, scary prospect. Right now, though, it's Erceg's time. Book the Schnell fight. Rebook it. That's what I'll pick. Rebook the Schnell fight. That's my call. Next fight was our main card opener. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. It was Diego Lopes versus Pat Sabatini, and just round of applause. Diego Lopes is an absolute savage. He rocked the shit out of Pat Sabatini, and he beat the absolute hell out of him when it ended up getting to the ground. It wasn't competitive after, about 50 seconds. Early on, Sabatini, he looked to wrestle a bit. Tried to take Lopes down. It's like Lopez's ground game is strong, man. He's not a guy you can just bully on the floor. And then on the feet, Sabatini looked like a dead fish. He got rocked bad, finished off with big shots. Like it's almost like after he got rocked, he's like looking away. And his body language was horrible. And Lopes was like, yes, time to kill. Diego Lopes fights Movsar Evloev and almost wins on very short notice. Destroys Gavin Tucker. Destroys Pat Sabatini. He's legit and he deserves a ranked fighter next. The UFC is on the Diego Lopes hype train because the commentary is talking about we have a new star born. They think that this guy's a future star. So you love to hear it. Movsar Evloev is ranked number 9 in the UFC featherweight division. I'm looking at the divisional rankings and I think this. We have to give him somebody good. But you don't want to jump him up too high. And Lerone Murphy had a competitive fight last time with Josh Kulabayao. I think you got to go Diego Lopes versus the side of Lerone Murphy. That's the fight that I'll pick for next. I mean, they could throw him somebody like a Dan Ige, where he has a clear grappling edge, but Ige hits like a truck. Sadiq Yusuff just lost to Edson in a great fight. I doubt they throw Lopes, Edson Barboza, but you know what? Can you imagine Diego Lopes and Edson Barboza? Crazy clash of styles type fights? I'd watch the hell out of that. Lerone Murphy makes sense, but if they're really trying to push him, it's a risk, but you give him Edson Barboza, and if he finishes Edson Barboza, you have somebody that's like really working their way up to the top now. That division's so good right now. Josh Emmett, Giga Chikadze coming up too. Yeah, I think Diego Lopes Edson's a really cool fight, but I think Lerone Murphy's like a more sensible step into the rankings. Keep it a little more sensible. But if the UFC wants to go balls to the wall, guns blazing on our guy, I think we give him Lerone. Let's see if Lerone can stay unbeaten by taking on somebody as good as Diego Lopes. That's a fight I'm down for. Pat Sabatini, unranked opposition from now on. And we've seen his ceiling, man. He's 33. He's not going to make it to the rankings. It's not going to happen. But he's a tough out for a lot of guys, and he has a tricky frame to deal with. He's got good grappling, but his striking ultimately is just not that good. Diego Lopes can mix it up, and he mixes it up better than I thought he was capable of. His power is legit. His ground skills, legit. His whole fucking game is legit. And I think he has a very bright future at only 28. And I'm kind of down to watch him fight Edson Barboza next in a fucking main event. Just throw him the fucking fight. Like, the UFC seems like they want to get on the Diego Lopes train because he has the look. He's got the vibe. He's got something interesting about him. And I'm all in. Diego Lopes, savage. Next fight on the main card. Benoit Saint Denis versus Matt Frevola. This was the jaw drop fight of the night. Like, I could have walked out of the live stream because it starts off striking. They're engaging in the grappling. Matt Frevola's getting on top of Benoit Saint Denis. And we're like, wow, great sweep by Benoit. Frevola then ends up getting back on top. Then we're on the feet. They separate against the cage. Frevola's, with his back towards the cage. Saint Denis coming in with the pressure. They separate, though. And then Frevola's circling out, and his hands are low, and he's kind of turned like this. Benoit throws the high kick, and actually it doesn't hit him in the chin. It hits him on like more the top part of the head with the foot. Down goes Matt Frevola, head kick knockout, and Benoit Saint Denis drops some hammers from top position, and they stop at 1:30. Like, wow. Benoit Saint Denis had that performance. The high kick knockout, what can Benoit Saint Denis not do? It was a badass win. Now, after the fight, he used his time to make a very serious call out. He said he wants Gaethje, Poirier, or Mateusz Gamrot, three of the biggest names in the weight class, which in all actuality, his likelihood of getting to enter the rankings is slim to none. But like, it seemed like the UFC production was kind of into it because they put Benoit Saint Denis and Gaethje like next to each other on the big screen. And also, French main event with him and Gamrot is another interesting fight. But Gamrot is the number 6 guy in the world. And as of right now, Benoit Saint Denis beat number 14, Matt Frevola. Where do we go with him? Do they give him Mateusz Gamrot? It's almost like a punishment for Gamrot, though, because he just beat Rafael Fiziev with an injury, and then he celebrated. So it's like, hey, karma's a bitch. Now we give you Benoit. Let's see if you can take out this next level prospect. I'm in on the Benoit Saint Denis Mateusz Gamrot fight, honestly. I'd say I like that idea. I'm curious to see how that matchup will play out, too. Benoit just started MMA in 2017. That's crazy. That's the year I graduated high school. And the dude is already UFC ranked. Savage mode. I mean, the Bobby Green, Dan Hooker winner, but he's ready to fight sooner, I think. Timeline might just work out where Benoit Saint Denis ends up getting his wish and fights Mateusz Gamrot, who's way ahead of him in the rankings. Renato Moicano is supposed to be announcing a fight. I don't know who the opponent would be. I mean, fighting Money Moicano would be cool too for Benoit, but I don't know if they want to do that. If they're going back to Paris, him and Gamrot sells. For Matt Frevola, unfortunately, man, he's either going to be ranked number 15 and they boot Drew Dober out of the rankings because Frevola chinned him, or Frevola might be gone from the rankings. He's still a really fun fighter. I think he was looking good. It's just a head kick knockout like that. Those fights Those moments, career changing. Matt Frevola wins. He's in a completely different career position with a knockout as a big underdog against one of the brightest prospects in the lightweight division. Benoit Saint Denis, somebody they're putting the marketing machine behind. They want to build him. He's a French star on the come up, and they need it for that market. So him and Gamrot in a main event, it's not crazy. It's not crazy by any means. And I'm very interested to see what they decide to do next. Benoit Saint Denis was very impressive, and he was so smooth on the mic speaking English. Respect to Benoit Saint Denis. The featured bout, Jessica Andrade versus Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern still strikes like a novice. That's the truth. She still strikes like a novice. Her chin comes up in the air like the freaking Rock'em Sock'em robots after you rock them. But before she even gets hit, it's literally directly up. You see some of those kids when they're squatting and they're looking fucking straight up because they heard that from the gym coach. She's doing that on the strikes. When does it happen? When frustration sets in. She's not doing it all the time when things are going smooth. But when frustration sets in, when fatigue sets in, when she gets hit with shots, she reverts to her horrendous habits. Mackenzie Dern was touching Jessica Andrade with good straights. But the fucking lack of technique, really, the truth is, the lack of consistent technique, I'll say, is what cost her here. It's what cost her. She got dropped and rocked on a couple occasions. She was finished at the very end, and she's like in this awkward, like flipped position. She was done. Jessica Andrade, I still think she's not to the same level of her previous self. She has lost a step. But when you give a chin straight up in the air like that, holy shit. It's like hitting a piñata without the fucking blindfold on for Jessica Andrade. And she's going to knock it out. She's got ferocious power. She knocked out Mackenzie Dern here in an impressive win that keeps her now in the upper echelon of this women's strawweight division. I don't think she's going up to 125. So like I have to matchmake her as if she's going to be fighting here at 115 still. So she beat number 7, Mackenzie Dern. With a knockout like that, there's a couple of options here. Okay? We can do an Amanda Lemos Andrade rematch that I don't think people would hate. I actually like the idea of it. You could also give her a sensational grappler in Virna Jandiroba if they want to see how that fight ends up playing out. That could happen too. Outside of that, I don't think anybody's going to argue with the Marina Rodriguez fight either. I'd watch her and Marina Rodriguez fight. I like that matchup too. I think those are options. Rodriguez, I think Lemos rematch. I'd say in order, like I think the Rodriguez fight would be if they're trying to get Jessica Andrade back into a contendership position. If you want to give her Virna Jandiroba, you want to see if Verna's make or break. It's like, is Virna a contender or not? We're going to find out from this fight. So dangerous spot to be in. And then if you say, okay, I want to rematch her with Lemos, it's more of like a, fight that, I don't want to say it left like a stone unturned because Andrade got the standing arm triangle, but like Lemos was striking really well with her early, and she just went 5 rounds with the champ. So those 3 matchups are possible for what's next. I could see Lemos if they're looking for a main event too. For the side of Mackenzie Dern, though, she takes a beating. She takes a beating. Amanda Ribas, Luana Pinheiro loser could be what's next for Mackenzie Dern. I could see that. I could see that. Or they give her like Michelle Waterson Gomez and they're looking to give her a W. Yeah. That's what I'm kind of thinking here. I mean, they do what? Dern Lemos, I think she gets knocked out. You got to give her somebody that doesn't have a lot of sting in their hands or like big power potential for Mackenzie Dern. Unless like they're trying to throw her to the Lions. Okay, maybe they give Lemos the fight and they're both coming off losses. Mackenzie Dern took a tough L here, man. Tough L. Jessica Andrade, good performance. Great performance. She's back. She's back with this win. Co-main event of the evening. This is the holy shit moment of the night. Sergey Pavlovich hit Tom Aspinall with a great punch that definitely stunned him. But Tom Aspinall got the last fucking laugh. Overhand right that absolutely sends Sergey Pavlovich into, delusion. His mind is gone into the fucking paranormal, the twilight zone, I should call it. Hit him with an overhand, rocked him, hit him with another one, down he went. Pavlovich was completely finished and frozen. He had no emotion on his face as he's down. Looked like a zombie. The dude was flat out. Tom Aspinall is the most athletic and quick heavyweight I've ever seen in my life, and it doesn't make any sense. He took this fight on 2.5 weeks notice, and I'm hearing he hurt himself, he hurt his back, and he couldn't even train. And he goes out there and gives Pavlovich hell like that and knocks him out in 1:09. And Pavlovich was knocking everybody out. All these killers are getting killed by Pavlovich. And now Pavlovich just got absolutely destroyed. So if I'm Jon Jones, I'm like, this is the fucking scariest heavyweight matchup I've ever seen. Where do I have a true advantage? I got to wrestle with this guy. I got to be ready for 5. I don't have power like him. I don't have speed like him. I'm not young like him. This is the worst matchup for Jon Jones. How's it going to work out? Because is Jon Jones going to retire? Because I feel like the UFC hinted at Daniel Cormier specifically. He don't think Jones is going to fight Aspinall. And he hinted at, I expect Aspinall to be elevated to world champ soon. So, like, this is like the true new champ fight. If Jon Jones is not to fight against Stipe Miocic next, he's out. Like, it's, I don't know, man. Or is he? They're going to book Jon Jones versus Stipe. They're supposed to. But not till the summer. And Tom Aspinall has got a knockout win in November in a minute. He might be down to fight again sooner. The issue is, are we defending the interim belt now? This is the problem with Jon Jones now having an injury at the top, man. He didn't pull a Yuri Prochazka or a Jamall Hill where he vacates. This is not what he would do. He holds on to it. We do the interim title. We're looking at probably Tom Aspinall, the baddest man in the UFC. And I want to see him and Jon Jones next. But instead, we're going to get the Stipe fight next, which, yes, it's a great legacy fight. Tom Aspinall deserves a fight for the real world title, especially after a win like that. And especially due to the fact that I think he gives Jon Jones hell. I think he probably beats Jon Jones. I think he probably knocks him out. I respect it now. I always thought Aspinall was good, but with this fight here, I said, no, Pavlovich is the one. I was way wrong. Aspinall's a freak, and I look at that speed, and I imagine him hitting Jon Jones with the punches that he knocked out a boogeyman like Pavlovich, who's 260 pounds and a killer striker. I don't think Jon Jones would stand up to it. So I feel like Jon Jones is probably going to checkmate, peace out. I beat Stipe, retire, do Aspinall versus Ciryl Gane. Gane has already went to Twitter and called for the fight. I saw. He said he's looking to move upwards, and that's the fight. Gane versus Aspinall next is super interesting, but it's weird that we have the real heavyweight belt, I guess, in the hands of Jon Jones. But then if we have the active champ is the interim champ, it's kind of like, what the hell are we doing here? I guess you can still do the Jon Jones fight with Stipe, but I guess if the belt's not on the line, it loses the value of the super fight. But it just fucks the division in some sense, because I think Aspinall will be ready to defend the belt in March. So are we doing an interim title defense? I think that'd be so awkward. It'd be so awkward. We'll see what the UFC ends up doing. Nonetheless, I think Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones is a fight that now I will dream of seeing, and I'm going to fingers crossed that Jon Jones beats Stipe handily and has confidence and is like, yeah, I'm going to fight Tom Aspinall. I'm going to show the new blood what's up. And then I think that would be like the passing of the torch fight would be Tom Aspinall beating Jon Jones. And I think there's a real chance that it could end up happening. Sergey Pavlovich, what about him? I still think he's a savage contender. I still think he's a top guy. He's not far off. It's just he got brutally knocked out. So, it's hard to, get thrown right back out there with a brutal knockout loss like that. But, hey, let's look at the division right now, okay? Ciryl Gane is ranked number 1. Pavlovich 2. Aspinall was 4. So now Pavlovich is the interim champion, so he's 1 with Gane as the number 1 contender. Realistically, Pavlovich to fight against Alexander Volkov is kind of the next fight to make. I'm curious to see how those two would fare. The Russian giant versus the Russian knockout king. Battle of Russia. I like Volkov Pavlovich. I could see them looking to give him like a Sergey Spivak fight, especially because Spivak's coming off a bad loss. But I think he would like lay waste to Sergey Spivak. Him and Jailton Almeida, but Jailton Almeida is trying to call for the fight against Cyril Gane. I don't think Jailton Almeida, after that last performance, really deserves Gane, but I also don't think they're going to throw him to the Lions and give him the side of Pavlovich. So Pavlovich Volkov, that's my pick. Pavlovich Volkov is next for me. That's my call. Aspinall, he should be fighting John Jones next. We might have to wait for the Stipe fight. How long is that going to be? When is he going to be ready? Is Aspinall going to wait on the sidelines for a year and a half? Makes no sense. He's in his prime now. This is the issue with this interim belt shit. This is why I really admire Jiří Prochazka and Jamall Hill for just vacating the titles. Let the division move on, and then you will get the immediate championship fight next. But John Jones wants that heavyweight title defense. That's just how it goes. I get it. He's a legend. Let him have it. He's fighting Stipe next. If the Stipe fight doesn't happen, though, something happens. Tommy Aspinall, that's the guy. That's the guy for the job. He's the interim champ now. And there's serious argument amongst UFC fans. Guys, let me know in the comments. Is Tom Aspinall the best heavyweight in the UFC? The performance like that is damn hard to argue right now because he looked God tier. I want to see him in John Jones. I need to see him in John Jones. Amazing. Amazing performance. Main event of the evening. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Alex Pereira versus Jiří Prochazka. Man, Alex Pereira becomes the UFC light heavyweight champion. He's got 2 belts now, light heavyweight and middleweight. Let's talk about the first round. Pereira is ripping Prochazka's legs apart. The leg kicks of Alex Pereira are just top caliber. He was really fucking up Prochazka's leg. Prochazka did land one, like, digging shovel uppercut. He did also land a takedown and get on top, but it wasn't for that long. Pereira did get up at the very end of the round, which was very, very promising. Like him getting up from Prochazka on top and really not taking much ground and pound, like one elbow, maybe a couple shots. It really wasn't a lot. That was huge for his confidence. Then we get into the second round, and you could tell Prochazka wants to strike with Pereira. Pereira rips at the legs a bit, but like Prochazka's having punching success, and Pereira like looks a little bit flat-footed / slow on the feet at points where Prochazka is ripping punch combinations on the inside. Prochazka got a bit too overzealous, got caught with like a, sliding right hand, and then the shortest of left hooks as he's looking to close the gap. Absolutely rock him. He closes in and now looks for a takedown. Alex Pereira starts hammer fisting and then elbows, and you see Jiří Prochazka start to go limp. He falls back, and Pereira ends up getting full mount. The ref jumps right in. A lot of criticism on the stoppage from the commentary team and obviously many of the fans watching. Why? Because when we have a world championship fight especially, we want the most definitive answer possible. Now, it's not even good to have an early stoppage on a fight in the first fight of the night prelim opener, but especially with a world title on the line. But let me give you guys some fruit for thought here. Let's say we let it go 5 more seconds. The odds of Jiří Prochazka recovering from that, the way that he fell back with Pereira in full mount and ready to drop bombs on him, I think the reality is he was probably going to go out, and he looked on complete wobbly rubber when he stood up right after the stoppage. He seemed pretty much out of it still physically. Mentally, like he's got the warrior spirit. He's there. So the way he fell too, I want to give Mark Goddard a little bit of respect. The limp arm of Prochazka. Like it looked like he got hit and then he was going flat out. So the ref jumped right in. And he definitely went out from those elbows inside. He got knocked out. So the ref has a guy knocked out. Sure, guys have bounced back from getting knocked out and recovered. Jiří Prochazka himself said he got knocked out with Reyes and then snapped back and won the fight by knockout. Ref jumps in here. Because we want to know for sure, I understand wanting 5 more seconds. You can say it's a little bit early. But does it really seem likely that it would have changed the result? It's not that controversial of a stoppage. And then after the fight, Jiří Prochazka himself admitted that he thought it was a fair stoppage. When the fighter admits it like that, it's extremely hard to go against it. Now, sure, you can say, oh, he was concussed. Oh, it was right after the fight. Sure, Prochazka's not one to make excuses. He's accepting the result moving forward, and he's going to be ready to come back not that long from now. It's not like he looked horrible in this fight. He ran into a clean shot by Pereira. Honestly, Prochazka's recklessness got him caught. I predicted second round knockout, and we got a second round knockout here. For Alex Pereira, what does he do right after the fight? He calls out Adesanya Again, I love it. I absolutely love how he called out Adesanya. Mentioned Adesanya saying his name when he was watching in a bar, and then that's what got him into MMA. And now he's saying Adesanya's name to motivate him to get back into fighting. I think Alex Pereira, Adesanya, MMA trilogy for the light heavyweight belt, it's not a bad idea. I know Adesanya's like, yo, I'm waiting until 2027. Bullshit. He's not waiting until 2027. He's this waiting out for maybe the right opportunity and potentially a Pereira fight. But if you're like Adesanya's, it's like, do I really want to rematch Pereira? I knocked him out. I think Adesanya might be like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. Then we got Jamall Hill. Jamall Hill's not going to be ready to come back for a while. Best case, summertime. I think Pereira wants to fight sooner than that. That's why he called out Adesanya. But now we run into this weird log jam at light heavyweight where, okay, Jamall Hill out of the picture. Yuri Prochazka just lost. Magomed Ankalaev needs to run it back with Johnny Walker because we had an inconclusive result. Jan Blachowicz scheduled to fight Alexander Rakic. Who would even be next? Who would even be next? This is the big issue, man. This circumstance could potentially set up a Yuri Prochazka rematch if no one else is available and Prochazka is more than willing to get right back in there. It's not far-fetched at all to think that these two could run it back again. Now, if Prochazka is going to be out for a while, I think the loser of Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker makes a lot of sense. I also think the loser of Blachowicz versus Rakic could also make sense too. Even Yuri Prochazka versus Anthony Smith, I don't hate. They'd be throwing him hell. Can you imagine somehow Anthony Smith just weasels his way to the title shot? He's there. He's ready to go. He's ready to take it. He's available. He's coming off a win. It'd be insane if he somehow fought Alex Pereira for the belt. Not saying I think that happens. There'd be some weird hoops. I think more likely Prochazka would fight Smith next. And I kind of like that fight. For Pereira, I'm going to say I don't think Adesanya is going to take it. He might have to wait on the sidelines a bit. There might right here be a rematch. If Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker ended in a conclusive result, they would be next in line probably to fight him. Can you imagine Johnny Walker, Alex Pereira, what that would do? Be a huge fight in Brazil. I dream of it, but that's just not how it works out. Who knows? We'll see what the UFC ends up doing with Pereira. Jamall Hill is next in line whenever he's available. Doesn't mean that he's the next guy to get the shot. But when he's available, he's 100% the number one contender. For Prochazka, timeline might work out where he can get a rematch. And I think he'd be more than happy to take it. I like the idea of a rematch. But if Adesanya wants to jump up and give it hell, could you imagine? Adesanya, Pereira 3 for the light heavyweight belt? I don't know, man. Adesanya took a bad loss to Sean Strickland. And does he now want to get in there with the boogeyman Pereira after that? I'm going to say that the likelihood of that is on the significantly lower side. Nonetheless, UFC 295 crowned a new UFC light heavyweight champion, which is Alex Pereira, who made history. 2-division glory, kickboxing champ, 2-division UFC champ. The dude's an absolute specimen. Everybody early on was like, he doesn't have the grappling. He doesn't have the skills X, Y, and Z. He definitely has the defensive grappling capabilities now. And compile that with very good counterpunching and just freakish knockout power. Alex Pereira is the world champ. The circumstances have lined up beautifully for him. He's got a 2-division championship. Something Anderson Silva never did. Something Adesanya could never do. Pereira's in the UFC for a short period of time. Boom. Two-weight champ now. Incredible. Incredible, Alex Pereira. Regardless of what you thought of the stoppage, incredible. Now, let's recap the picks. How did they go? My record for the night was 6 wins, 6 losses, and 1 draw. Yes, it was unfortunate. Jamall Emmers, I got a win, starting the night off. Lost with Borjas over Van. I'll accept the live underdog loss. 1 with Castañeda over Kang, perfect call. 1 with Jared Gordon over Mark Madsen. Took a draw, had Borshchev here, had a draw. Took Rębecki, 1 with him over Roberts by sub. Lost with Ricci with Godinez. She deserved to lose. 1 with Erceg over Costa, perfect call. Lost with Sabatini over Lopes, which turned out to be the worst pick of the night. But hey, Lopes is a bad man. I can't wait for what's next. Lost with Frevola over Saint Denis. The head kick gets a sick knockout. Lost with Dern over Andrade. Did not happen. Andrade whooped that ass. And the Dern pick turned out to be horrible. And then lost with Sergey Pavlovich, who I locked up. And he got knocked out in a minute against Tom Aspinall, who just might be the best heavyweight in the UFC now. And the lock unbeaten streak ends. 10 weeks unbeaten. We officially take an L after last week's draw. So 9-1-1 in the last 11. The streak is officially over. But hey, I was 10 weeks unbeaten, and I'm bringing fire back. I'm 25 years old now. It's my birthday right now at this time of the recording. I didn't say it at the beginning of the video because everybody on the stream knows. I'm turning it up. I'm turning it up. And then, hey, when I turned 25 midnight, Alex Pereira got the win. He got it done. He beat Yuri Prochazka. I called the second round knockout. It was the left hook that put him down. Yeah, the hammer, fist, and elbows led to the official KO, but that left hook landed. Perfect call there. Yes, the record, not the prettiest, 6-6-1, but I won with the main event. The most confident pick section sweep. Just some live dogs, unfortunately, got ripped apart by their superiors. UFC 295 was a very good card, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. I hope you guys enjoyed the recap show. I feel like I went pretty in-depth today. It's probably the excitement that I have right now because it's my birthday. Make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe and turn those post notifications on too. Let me know what you thought of the card in the comments down below. And if you have nothing to say in the comments, we just enjoy my content, as always, drop a W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. If the post notifications are not turned on, why aren't they turned on? Don't just leave them on personalized. Put them on all so you don't miss a video, because I got daily content dropping on the channel. I got the UFC picks for this coming Saturday's card dropping today at the time of this recording, November 12th. So keep your eyes peeled for it. Much love, my people, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace, everybody.